the radio guy, Mike Prince. Welcome to another episode of the Mike Prince Show here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Our daily mission is to bring you news that you can use on the world of college athletics and beyond. Our social media handles for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are all at the Mike Prince Show. YouTube channel is Open Mic Broadcast Network, and our 24-hour dial-in message line, 713-570-6736. And without any further delay, we're going to jump right into today's episode. Our guest today really needs no introduction. Probably the hardest, if not the hardest, working guy in radio that I know of, and that's throughout the land. And that is none other than my St. Louis homeboy. We affectionately call him Tall Man Radio, the voice of the Alcorn State Braves, Mr. Charles Edmond. How you doing today, my friend?
Hey, Dr. Prince, how are things going? And right now, we are kind of pouring this around because there's not a lot going on these days. We hope in the next few months, but no.
Oh, no, I know. Look, I know you've been pulling what hair you got left. You're in my category. Whatever much I got left on top, I'm pulling it out my head right now to get some sanity back in things, huh?
Yep, that's true. I'm trying to look down the road here. I don't know what's going to happen, but you have to prepare for everything. Of course, if football starts on time, you got to be prepared for that. If it doesn't, you got to be prepared for that as well. You just don't want to let down thinking that we're going to have football, it's going to start on time, and it doesn't. I think that's going to disappoint, frustrate, and anger a whole bunch of people. Sports folks, our sports guys and girls, used to football in August, and if there's no football, I don't know what this country's going to do.
Well, I live by the motto, expect the worst, hope for the best.
Exactly.
And with that being said, I've got my mindset that there will be no football, but I'm ready to embrace it. Now, let me go on record for saying I don't believe it will be high school or collegiate football, but there will be some professional football played in 2020.
Well, I'm of the opinion right now that there's going to be college football because there's too much money to be lost. Too many programs are relying on football, and it's going to be a devastating impact if there's no football. There's no college football, especially on the lower levels. Now, the elite programs, the Ohio State, Alabamas, the Notre Dames, they'll figure it out. There'll be some changes, some adjustments, some cuts here, there. The mid-major programs, the lower-tier programs, it's going to have a decimating effect if there's no football. So our commissioner, the MEAC commissioner, said they're more focused on safety than economics. The article came out here recently about that, and I get that point of it. But the bottom line is that if there's no football, the economic impact of that is going to be it's going to be tough. And even for the mid-majors, I don't know if people have been following it, but there was a letter petitioning the NCAA from Conference USA and some of the mid-major conferences to relax some of the requirements to be a Division I program, meaning attendance, football, and some other things, because they want to have the flexibility to make some cuts if needed. Now, you have to have a certain number of sports to be a Division I program. I think they're petitioning the NCAA to relax those, so there's a possibility. We're already seeing it. University of Cincinnati has cut soccer, and I'm sure you're going to read more of this as we go along here. A lot of schools are furloughing employees, furloughing athletic department employees. Some of these coaches are taking a salary cut. So they're trying to do everything they can to preserve bodies and to preserve the talent. It's just if the money's not adding up, you have to cut deeper into the wound. And it's already fresh right now, but I think as time goes on, I do think it could get worse. My prediction, and I don't know this to be sure, but if I were a betting man, I would say it's going to be football because you can't afford not to have it. It may not be in August and September. I think the energy is shooting for maybe a January start for football, January to April or something like that, which will be an adjustment for everybody. We'll just have to wait and see. I don't know this. I don't have any sources. You just read the tea leaves, what the Power Five are doing, and I guarantee you we're going to kind of piggyback off of that. The domino effect all the way up and down the board. I do predict that football probably the college level might not start until later on in the year, January, at the latest. I think, for instance, your network covers high school football. I think you're going to get a good sense as to where we are in football, the high school football season, which here in Mississippi, that starts the third week in August. The jamborees, the exhibition games, if you will, starting the second week. There's kind of talk around here about only playing district games, which will buy them more time to get ready. You're going to need about a month to get these guys in shape and get them ready. So there are a lot of moving pieces. There are a lot of scenarios out there. If there's no football at all, high school, college, pro, pee-wee, it's just going to have a lot of people off the cliff, I think.
Well, a lot of people will be off a cliff, and it's going to be a lot more people that are being harm's way. There's so many moving pieces to align everything, and it sounds optimistic. It sounds very rah, rah, rah that we'll have football in the fall on time. And I know it's a bunch of smoke being blown right now to keep fans engaged and optimistic. But when you look at everything that has to align, just from a simple perspective, it's going to be a tall order to fill. And I'm hoping like mad because, as you mentioned, we cover high school, collegiate football, and I'm a big pro football fan. And it is definitely a lot of money on the table. That's why I said the professional ranks, they're going to figure something out. And there's a different dynamic because of the fact that they're grown or legitimately considered grown men out there competing. With the collegiate high school aspect, they're still under the child care stigma, if you would. And as parents, I think you get more kickback from parents by allowing their children to participate in it than anything else. But as you said, we can't read all the tea leaves. We can kind of assess and line things up the way it's going. Nonetheless, there's going to be some adjustments to be made. Life will not be the same from this point forward, but we will somehow figure this thing out and continue on as close to normal, whatever that is, as possible.
Yeah, I don't know when that's going to be. I mean, if you just look at football. I mean, there are three options: no football at all, which is not going to happen; a late start to the season, or football with no fans. And I think Notre Dame's athletic director and other top 5 ADs and commissioners have pretty much said that playing games without fans is not an option. Students aren't allowed back on campus. How can you have college football on campus? So I think you're obviously the powers that be are following the recommendations of the top health experts, and I think we'll continue to follow that. But, we have to play by the rules too as citizens, the social distancing and the other stuff. If you do that, then the picture will become a little more clear. But if we don't, and we know what's going on in the world today, these protests for trying to reopen these states and all that, if that happens, when that these states and cities and municipalities haven't got to the bottom of the curve, then what do? You have another outbreak. And we as a society, financially, economically, socially, can't afford another outbreak. So we're at a point now which I think I'm not going to say now or never, but we either got to get it together or some things you just won't have in the near future, like athletics. No one's going to take that chance. There's legal ramifications, lawsuits potentially if you open up and things, people get sick, restaurants and others. So there's a lot of stuff in the hopper that you have to look at.
Absolutely. We're talking right now with Charles Edmond, the voice of the Alcorn State Braves. You've been doing this for quite some time now. What is it, 25 years going into, Charles?
Actually, 30 years.
30 years. Look at that, man. I'm cheating you out of 5. But a lot of people don't know, at least you don't let it be known too often, but you're actually a GSU G-Man graduate, correct?
Yes, I am. Class of 1991. And so I've been a part of this conference since 1986 and a Grambling grad. And, so I've been a part of this conference and the success of it's Alcorn or Grambling. I've been a part of successful programs, and it's definitely a fun ride when you're winning, a horrible feeling when you're losing, and I've been on that end of the stick as well. I've been through a winless season here at Alcorn. We had an 0-11 season one year in which it wasn't pretty to be sure with the way football is now. I mean, you can't see a program going 0-11, 0-12. It did happen once upon a time at Alcorn. It was a tough time. It was pretty tough. You know, fans were not happy with just the way things were going. Just couldn't get a break. Just couldn't win a game, and it was hard to accept the fact that going through this conference that you couldn't find a way to win one. That's what we went through, and that was obviously the low water mark for me in athletics to see football go through an 0-11 season. And I guess the second lowest would be if your team's not eligible for a postseason, which we've had that in basketball as well. So we've done this thing on for two different schools, and it's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat when things don't go well.
The old ABC Wide World of Sports theme. I used to really dig that, man. And I have a confession. I used to like to see the guy just kind of fall around like a rag doll when he said, "and the agony of defeat" off that ski lift. I just thought that was so awesome.
Yeah, that's about as bad as it gets.
It's about individual. Yes, sir. Now, how did you land on the reservation, my friend? I think that's the $64,000 question that many folks would like to know.
Well, you have to go back to my senior year in college, which was 1990. I had heard through some friends that Alcorn might be looking for an announcer pretty soon. At that time, Alcorn had an announcer that was doing games just on a part-time basis. That's all he was doing was just doing games on a contractual basis. And as we got into October, November, December, I was told that I'm going to be looking for somebody full-time, and it should be a job that you should be looking at to apply. So I stayed with it. I made some calls and just kind of kept my eye on it. Of course, other options, too, that were outside of the broadcast world in case that didn't work out. But I kept my eyes on the Alcorn gig. And I got a call from my boss, Dr. Charles, to go ahead and apply, and went through the process. It was the first part of May. I was graduating in May of 91. So Dr. Crosby called me and said, would you like to come in for an interview? We'd like to interview you. And the date was the day after graduation. I graduated on a Sunday, and my family was down in Grambling, attended the graduation. And as soon as graduation was over, we celebrated and excited about the fact that I'm a college graduate. And we had to hop in the car, and the next day we drove to Natchez, a hotel, and I had the interview at Alcorn the very next morning at 8 o'clock. And then we went home, went back to St. Louis, a 8-hour drive. And 3 days later, I got the call that I was auditioned. And this was maybe the 23rd or 24th of May. And I started working June 4th, 1991. So it all kind of fell in place, and I was lucky, blessed to have that opportunity. And been here ever since. Dr. Prince never really wanted to go anywhere, and just have enjoyed every moment of it here.
So when you arrive in June of 91, you're fresh off the Grambling yard. Now you're at Alcorn, and now you got to put aside all that GSU love, at least bury it, especially when you're fresh off of graduation. You're excited. The family's been down. What was it like for you in those early stages of Grambling versus Grambling versus Alcorn at any event, and how long did it take you to actually subside those feelings and just keep it strictly professional?
Well, my first broadcast was a Grambling versus Alcorn game. It was the first game of 1991, which was the Red River Classic in Shreveport, Grambling versus Alcorn. It was an annual game in Shreveport, and we had been struggling like crazy in that game. Just couldn't get anything going. A guy by the name of Steve McNair came off the bench, and led us to victory. And, of course, the rest is history.
I think I may have heard of that guy or two.
Yeah, you heard of him. You know who he is. The late Steve McNair, of course, he led his team off the bench. We had a quarterback, Reginald Martin, who struggled, and Cardell Jones was the first-year head coach. So Cardell Jones, Steve McNair, myself, kind of all came in at the same time, and Cardell made the decision to go with Steve, and the rest, we all know the rest is history. But for the first, I would say, 10 years, Dr. Prince, a lot of, especially coaches, we had some old coaches here, Hall of Fame coaches, Billy Rapp, McAllen Sr., and others, that were very skeptical of me working and broadcasting Alcorn's games because I was a Grambling grad. It felt like that made absolutely zero sense.
Oh, man.
It made no sense, and I guarantee if I said anything out of line, if my tone of voice was I'm out of place now. Granted, every time Alcorn played any other opponent, it wasn't a problem. It was only when we played Grambling. So I had to have my antennas up. I had to make sure all my I's were dotted and T's were crossed when we played Grambling. And for the first 10, 12, 13 years I was at Alcorn, people would tease me about that. It doesn't happen now. I mean, I get the question, who do you root for when Alcorn and Grambling plays? I mean, but it was, back then, people were really sensitive about their programs and their teams in terms of just being a total homer. And I think, and understandably so, I mean, if I was a graduate of another school outside the SWAC, I think it would have even mattered. But because Grambling was Alcorn's number 2 rival, Southern number 1, Alcorn number 2, I think because of that, you had that dynamic going. So it took a while for people to get accustomed to it, but it's completely understandable. So I had to deal with that. But it was interesting for sure. I mean, I was a 23-year-old kid, never really been on my own, leaving home. First time I was on my own was when I went off to college. That was my first real job, just being away from home and all that. I didn't know anybody at Alcorn really well. I knew our SID, Gus Howard, who's had a couple of stints here, kind of an old SWAC guy, but really didn't know anybody coming here. So I had to kind of build relationships when I got here. I just didn't know anyone, and it was an interesting time. But I'll tell you what, it was well worth it. It was you got a chance to get knocked down a little bit, and they helped you up, and they kept you propped up. So I really appreciate that.
One thing about it, whether you're in Lorman, Mississippi, any of our small, cozy towns that our sister schools reside in, the places where they are, you either love it or hate it. There is no in-between. And it settles in, and you be like, man, I'm a part of this community, and I can actually make a difference in this community. And then the work begins to build itself. And did you see yourself looking like, man, I've been here 5 years, 10 years, and now 30 years. Do you find yourself asking, where did the time go?
Yeah, I mean, time goes by. When you're in this profession, and not just me, you ask others in this profession like Rob J. and some of the other radio broadcasters that are doing games for these schools. I know I'm pretty good friends with the guy that does games for USM, kind of a mentor of mine, John Cox. He's been doing it over 40 years, and he doesn't even look like he's been doing it 40 years. He looks like a 35-year-old kid. But these profession doesn't age you because time goes by so fast where before you know it, you've been doing it 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and it doesn't feel like I've been doing it for 30 years because you're so busy. You're 9 months from August all the way to May. You have an agenda. Now, for the first 3 or 4 years, I didn't do baseball and softball. And once I started doing that, my calendar was full from August until and I started doing high school football maybe in 97, 98. So from August all the way through May with baseball, the calendar is full. So therefore, time does fly, and the whole adage, time flies when you're having fun. That's true because, if you're having fun, you don't worry about time. It's just time's going to take care of itself. So, yes, I've been doing this for a minute, blessed to be able to do it. Fortunate, the university has kept me around, and I appreciate that. And I still have a lot in me, and if the university will allow me to do it, I'm going to continue to do it. And I've added other little things, little podcasting and doing Vicksburg High and just working in the community and doing some things. So, thanks to Alcorn, it's opened up a whole bunch of doors for some other opportunities and to meet a whole bunch of different people in different disciplines, trying to get involved and just doing other stuff too, and not only just sports, just news and covering events and doing other things. So this profession, as you know, Dr. Prince, opens up so many more doors.
No doubt at all. And you've been with WPRL, which we're proud to be carriers of Alcorn Sports when there are awesome sports going on right now. When you go back and you look at the technology that has changed and evolved in radio for the past 30 years, it's a different world now from which we stand, from whence we come from, is it not?
Oh, absolutely, and I credit you for a lot of the technology we're using here. Some of it you've kind of hit me to it, and we've taken that on. The whole podcasting thing started with some of the things that you and I have talked about. I remember when I first got here, I was asking for the equipment that we use to broadcast games. I got a little old bag. It was a two-channel mixer, analog mixer, and with an old LED reading. And we had to use that for many years until we upgraded to a 4-channel unit. And then we upgraded to the digital stuff and the tie line, and you can dial up. You don't need a phone line. Used to be you had to have a phone line to dial and do your broadcast. Now you can do it wirelessly. You can do it through IP connections. You plug in an Ethernet port, and if your security on campus or at the radio station can open up the firewall and just dial directly to the IP in your studio, and it sounds crystal clear. It sounds like you're there. So it used to be ISDN, which is a phone line. Some places still do ISDN in some capacity, but technology has changed. The equipment has changed. You can do stuff on your cell phone with an IP, with a hotspot. I mean, so there's a lot of options you have now, where back then only the best, richest entities had the ISDN because you had to have several phone lines, and they're costly at the time. Now, if you got the right stuff, and you have to make an investment. That's not cheap, I'll say that. If you make the investment, it pays for itself at some point in time if you just stay with that. But now technology is forcing you to do these things because the old way of doing things is still available in a very minimal capacity. You want the best quality of sound, and you're going to have to get with the new technology to make it sound the best that it could be.
Absolutely. Now, you brought back some memories, man. I can remember when you say the phone receiver, unscrew it, put your alligator clips on so you can get your signal from the phone line and go to your equipment to get the broadcast transmitted back to the studio. And times have definitely brought about a change. And when you talk about ISDN lines, if I could ever go back and be at a standstill moment, ISDN to me was the most reliable. You didn't have to worry about it. And at that time, the best sound that you could get for a remote broadcast. And sometime I have to admit, Charles, I kind of long for the ISDN days. They discontinued in our area, but if I could, I'd get on it today. We're talking again with Charles Edmond, a.k.a. Tall Man Radio, and I love when you tell people how tall you are, so I'm about to set myself up for it again. Let our listeners know who are not familiar with you, who've never seen you in real life, how tall you are, my friend.
I am 7 feet tall. I've been, of course, tall all my life, tallest in my family. And my father actually was 6'5". He passed away about a year and a half ago. He's about 6'5", and people ask me about basketball and the interest in it that I play, and I did not. Wasn't really interested in it. My father tried to get me involved in it, and he was a principal at a high school that I attended, and I think his colleagues And we had a pretty good high school basketball team, by the way, University City High, College City. We had some great basketball players, a legendary coach in late Ed Crenshaw, who passed away a year and a half ago. I think there was some pressure to try to get me to play, and my father took me to the playground and introduced me to the game, but I just wasn't really feeling it. And so therefore, I really wanted to take up sports anyway, but in another capacity. I had a couple of cousins that played football, one at Oklahoma, one at Notre Dame, and I was the oldest cousin, so I got a chance to watch my cousins grow up into the game in Pee Wee football. And I always liked to listen to sports radio, and I remember back when they were like in 8th grade, they played Pee Wee football, and my mother got me a tape recorder. I started broadcasting their games on an old tape recorder. And from there, interest took off in terms of learning journalism, learning broadcasting. And in St. Louis, we had these National Association of Black Journalists workshops that we had on Saturday mornings. So when I was in high school, the last couple of years, I was really into that and did the PA for some of our games. And then, it was time for me to go to school. And I remember I went to Grambling my senior year in October of 85, and Grambling was playing South Carolina State on national television. And, of course, for those who remember those times, that was a nationally televised game. And I went to Grambling during that time, as a high school senior. I checked out their communications program. I was up in the press box. I knew then this is what I really wanted to do, and I knew then this is where I wanted to go to pursue my career in broadcasting. And, the rest is history. I didn't academically. I wasn't the smartest guy in the room. My grades weren't all that good. My scores were not that good. And it shows you that, once you get in a place, you might not deserve it, but once you get in, you got to take advantage of it. I made a 12 on the ACT. And just to give you context, I think it's still true now. I think you get 8 points for signing your name. So that just shows you what I did not study. I did not prepare as well as I should have. Scored a 12. But Grambling at that time had open admissions, and they were going to let you in. You had to be in the remedial program. Once you tested out of the remedial program, which I tested out of for probably half of my first semester, then you get into your discipline. So Grambling, because of that, I got in, and I was able to take advantage of it. And it just shows you once you get in, you take advantage of the opportunities, and the rest is history. I was able to get in my major. I was able to work with the TV and radio program and work at AGRM, which is still running today. And I learned from some good people when I was there. Great mentors, great friends that cared about you. Grambling's motto, Dr. Prince, is everybody is somebody. That's absolutely the truth. Because I was a nobody. I was a nobody when I got there. Nobody knew who in the heck I was. Nobody cared, to be honest. But, you build those relationships, and you just kind of go from there. So I was very fortunate to be able to get into that. But I am 7 feet tall, probably one of the tallest radio announcers, play-by-play guys in the country. The guy who used to do the Bulls games, his name was Tom Dorn. I met him. He played Missouri. And Tom Dorn was doing the Bulls games. And then I think before that he was doing the University of Missouri games. And I met him. I think he's 7 feet as well. So he's one of the top 2 radio play-by-play guys in the country.
Well, you're definitely taller than I am. So I'm sitting back and I'm listening to you tell your story, which is why HBCUs are so vital even today of giving opportunities, because as you were in U City, I was down in the inner city of Vashon High School, and Floyd Irons, you're talking about a great basketball program, state championships. I'm not going to go back and kick up any dust. We would have taken care of y'all, but we won't talk about that right now. But just as Grambling embraced you, how I feel about Prairie View. When I got to Prairie View, saw the campus, and saw KPVU, I was like, I'm done. This is it. You got what I'm saying? There's no need for me to even look anywhere else. And you get back, when I say these names, Jay Randolph and Jack Buck, Mike Shannon, old guys that would be on KMOX with the football games, the baseball games, the hockey games, the St. Louis Spirit ABA basketball games, and you grow up listening to these guys, and just like you, I thought the tape recorder was the most fascinating thing ever created. And you could just sit up and tell the story and paint the picture. And the love for radio, of course, has grown. And now here you are, 30 years in the broadcasting. I'm 30 years in the broadcasting. And it took us to come to the SWAC to cross paths. What a small world.
Absolutely. And you talked about KMOX. Part of my tutelage in college was I had to get an internship at a station, and I applied for an internship at KMOX, which at that time was probably the top sports station in the country, carrying St. Louis Cardinal baseball, Cardinal football. That's when the Cardinals were in St. Louis Blues hockey, and just they were the sports talk station of the country. All kinds of talk shows, all kinds of guests. I was fortunate enough to have an internship there for about 2.5 months during the summer. I got a chance to meet Joe Buck. Joe Buck was, of course, the late Jack Buck's father. I never got a chance to meet Jack Buck. There was a guy that was doing Cardinal games, Bill Wilkerson. I was in the booth with him during one Sunday during the Cardinal football game at Oak Ridge Stadium. So, I was just fortunate enough to be able to work at KMOX, and I understood how important it was to do highlights. I kind of adopted that concept even what I'm doing now. You can listen to ESPN radio; they do highlights to see so and so, and I kind of adopted that, and it's still today. And that's 35 years ago. That old highlight concept is still good, still works today, because just like you want to see highlights on television, you're listening to radio, you want to hear those highlights as well. And so that still goes on. You listen to broadcasts all over the country and listening to highlights. So that's kind of where I got it from in terms of bringing that to the SWAC. And I think that's helped out tremendously in terms of just being a part of sports radio.
Absolutely. And let me tell you right now, my friend, while I have you, definitely appreciate your work. Your work is respected and it's anticipated, whether it's coming in for a show like today or it's doing some play-by-play, a steady anchor and a lead broadcaster, not only in this conference but throughout the nation. And I count myself blessed to claim you as a homeboy and to count you as a comrade and a friend.
Well, I appreciate it. We were when I was in St. Louis, I was thinking about, I wondered if I could own a business and bring it to Mississippi. What would it be? And, if St. Louis, there's a lot of individuals, a lot of great restaurants there. And there's one restaurant that, one burger joint that I always kind of check out when I'm home, and I'd like to bring it to Mississippi if I had the finances and the means to do it. Those who probably know, there's a place called White Castle Hamburgers. And they're square burgers and sliders like Crystal, but they're 1,000 times better.
Oh, man.
You know about that. And if me and you or our buddy Carlos Brown could get a few coins together and start a White Castle franchise in either Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, I wonder how much money we could make off of it. I'm going to take the optimistic approach. I think in 5 years we could probably be on a beach doing a show.
Hey, man,
we could retire, but a lot of people don't like it though. And
it's an acquired taste. It's an acquired taste, and I'll tell you something. It's ironic that you say that. I served on the economic 4B development for the city of Prairie View for 7 years, and I actually reached out to White Castles to come to Prairie View. I said, man, this would be perfect in a college town. But their demographics would not allow them to move too far south. They like that northern hemisphere. They do have one in Las Vegas, and I think that's because of the nostalgia that you get on the Strip. But they purposely going to stay in the northern hemisphere. Trust me, my friend, I've looked into that.
Wow. Well, you know, in Missouri, when I leave St. Louis, going down 55 south, Cape Girardeau is about 140 miles from Memphis.
Uh-huh.
There was one in Cape Girardeau. That may be, and I might be wrong, if you just pulled it up on the map, that might be the furthest south castle they've got. I don't know if there's any further south. If you just look at a map, any that's further south. Memphis is the south, of course, and this White Castle in Cape Girardeau, 140 miles from Memphis. That might be the furthest south a White Castle restaurant would be. I would like to just do a pilot and try that. See, it is an acquired taste. It is different, but I think if you put it in the right spots, like you said, if you ride off 90, Vicksburg right off of I-20, or maybe Baton Rouge off of 10, just give it a shot.
Hey, man. Oh, man. I would love to be the test dummy for that project.
I think it'll work.
I think, look, I might have to go and revisit that thing again. Man, you making me want to take a break. You know, go find me some form of a White Castle. We're talking right now with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Network. Now, what is your exact title at WPRL, Charles?
I'm an operations manager for WPRL. The station's been here since the mid-'80s, and we offer news and sports and gospel programming, all kinds of music programming. And I started out as the title when I got here was news reporter and jazz announcer. That was my title when I got here. Sports wasn't even a part of the platform, even though I was going to do sports, but on paper, that wasn't a main title. And over the years, it just kind of grew on me. And then play-by-play announcer was included in my job title. And then over the years, as we had some people leave, I was elevated to operations manager. And I've been doing that for the last probably 15, 16, 17 years. I've been a part of doing that.
Absolutely. Now, a lot of people, when they hear operations manager, they get a cross blend between general manager. So explain for those who might not be aware of the difference between your operations manager, your general manager, and some of the other hats that you're wearing. Because when you're working in small media markets like we're accustomed to, you're wearing multiple hats. And that operations manager, which you're about to explain, that's more than one hat that you're wearing.
Absolutely. I mean, it says what the title intended to be. You know, anything dealing with the operations of the radio station, whether it's paying bills, whether it's doing equipment, you're basically doing that. And I do that quite often to make sure the bills that we create, make sure our vendors are getting paid in a timely fashion. Even though we are part of Alcorn State University, it's just not PLL is just not a separate entity. Alcorn State University has a license for the radio station. And of course, without a license, you have no radio station. So they are the licensee. We are part of the university, just one branch of it. But as operations manager, I make sure that everything is to make the station operational is in place, whether it's equipment, whether it's programming. I try to put that in place, and then we have a program director, a music director that handles the programming of the station. So if we want to play something else or do something different, go in another direction, as far as our format, our program director, his name is Jerome Miles, will kind of let me know what's going on with that. So we've been doing the same stuff for a minute. With gospel, it's jazz, R&B, it's blues. We have programming. We are an NPR affiliated program. We're not commercial. So we're getting, and even with that, having that title, we can still do a lot of different things. And, we serve the community. We broadcast local events. We do remotes in our area, Fort Gibson, Jefferson County, Fayette, Natchez, Vicksburg. So we're kind of all over our local communities. And whatever they have going on, if they want remotes, or if they want something broadcast, or if they want announcements, we're definitely a part of that. Without that, there's really no station, even though we're on the Alcorn campus. We do a ton of campus stuff. Of course, as you know, football, basketball, baseball, softball, any press conferences, interviews. So we're kind of all over the Alcorn angle as well. So we're kind of encompass
absolutely, and especially with the pandemic that the world is experiencing right now, a lot of people lean on their local radio station as a source of information, guidance, entertainment, and just staying up to date of the things that are developing on a constant basis. So the impact and the responsibilities have increased even more in such a time as this, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're following the guidance of the university, whatever the university asks of us, and we kind of get out there to see what the university is looking for, and we definitely want to be hand in glove with what they're trying to do, because right now it's about these students. We don't have students on campus like many colleges. We're doing stuff online, and right now we're trying to put a virtual graduation together, to try to have that experience of kids walking across the stage and doing voiceovers and things like that. We're not necessarily involved in it if we're asked, but we're trying to provide some guidance as best as we can. And from our standpoint, in terms of audio, we have a video team, and we deal with mainly audio. So whatever we can do to help the university or even athletics, whatever it may be, we definitely want to be a good partner and all that, because it's so critical that it's a team effort.
Very much so, sir. Very much so. We're speaking again with Charles Edmond, the Alcorn State Braves Network operations manager. Games have been suspended, but the business of athletics has steady been moving, and there's no need to make mention. We've got a couple things that's going on the reservation. Your athletic director has been more than busy. You have a high-profile athlete decides to transfer out. Bring us up to speed on what's going on in the world of athletics on the reservation.
Well, right now, the basketball search is, I haven't heard much as terms of any names. Nothing has been released. I do know that there's quite a bit of interest in the job, both men's and women's basketball. Both of those positions, there's been quite a bit of interest. I was told close to 100 applications total for men and women from all sectors of coaching. So it's definitely a position that's drawing a lot of attention, and I think part because football has been so prevalent and so successful, where you just see how the fan base gravitates around that and the energy behind that. And I've been a part of Alcorn basketball, men and women, when they were on top of the world, and Whitney Arena was full almost every night, and the support and the coverage that we get. So as far as basketball is concerned, whoever gets the position, men and women, if we win, then definitely you'll be the talk of the town. Other than that, of course, Noah Johnson, of course, going to South Florida. That was the other big storyline that came out recently, and wish him the best of luck. But right now, I mean, it's kind of a anxious time for athletic directors across the country, because you don't know what football is going to look like. I know our ticket manager, who's over the tickets for all of our sporting events, Chandra Stallings, put some stuff out on social media about our season tickets and RV parking and all that in anticipation of the season. And, of course, you have to do that. So she's busy. Derek Horn, athletic director, has been very busy and just trying to deal with, all the contingency plans. And this is kind of an interesting time. We wind down the month of April. This is typically when it comes to budgets, especially state budgets. If your athletic programs are depending on state money, and many programs in our league are, most of them are, but not all of them. This is a time in April, going into May, in which budgets are crafted, not only for your respective state, then it trickles down to your university, and then to your athletic program. You're crunching numbers. If you're an AD, looking at potential revenue. In a perfect world, if this had happened, kind of coming up with your budget, you include your guarantee games, you include what you project to make at home, and ticket sales and parking, and so this is kind of the year, this is kind of the time in which you do that, because your budget doesn't usually kick into July 1. But now, with the uncertainty, you just don't know what this is going to look like. And there's no TV in the world that's been through something like this. Now, 9/11, Trina, things were on pause for a week or two. Then they were rescheduled for later on. But you're talking about a lot, the whole season's on hold. You just don't know. You hope it all happens, but you just don't know. I don't know. I mean, as a sports fan, I'd like to see this thing kick off in August, September, like it's supposed to. I don't know if it's going to be that way. And so, it's so you, as a president, as a CFO, an athletic director, you're all kind of putting your heads together to see what it looks like. I think you have to put a plan in place as if it's a schedule, even though the time frame might not be the same. Clearly, you're at the will of the customer. Is the customer, our fans, going to be comfortable with coming back with everything going on? I mean, there's just a lot of uncertainty. And for right now, I mean, obviously we got 3 positions in terms of coaches. Our soccer coach was recently let go, and we'll have to deal with that. And obviously men's and women's basketball, dealing with that. A lot of interest there in terms of applications, from what I was told. And just seeing how football is going to look like. Because, Dr. Prince, it's going to be catastrophic if football is not played. I don't think it's going to happen because there's just too much money involved for it not to happen. Programs are estimated, it's not wiped off the map if it doesn't happen. The big boys will find a way to survive, really. They will survive. But the rest of us will be in a lot of trouble if it doesn't happen. I do think there'll be football. It may not be on the calendar the way we think it's going to be, maybe later on in the year. And I've even heard a January start. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's on the table. It's on the table. And we'll see, I think, in the next 30 days to 45 days, I think we're going to know a whole lot more in terms of where football's going to go. It's too big to wait until July. I think you're going to know. July probably will be a drop dead. I think we're going to know before then because there's too much money, too many pieces that are involved. Wait until late to see what's going to happen with college football.
We're speaking right now with Charles Edmond, the voice of the Alcorn State Braves. And the last time that there was any Heisman mention, of course, is with the legendary Steve McNair. And the reason I'm bringing it up, NFL draft. And Cincinnati is on the clock. And we know what the tea leaves are saying, who they're pointing at. A, do you believe that Joe Burrow will be the number 1 overall selected pick for the NFL draft? And what and how do you project his future to be?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, Joe Burrow's an Ohio guy, family in Ohio. It just makes sense, from a PR standpoint. And Joe Burrow's a heck of a player. He's going to be put in a program on a team in which, he can grow and develop. Do I think he's going to walk in there day one and be the starter? No, I don't. I think it's going to take time, just like with every quarterback coming in for the most part. You get in there and you kind of work your way through, kind of sit back, and he's the franchise. And so I don't think there's any doubt he will be the number 1 pick going to Cincinnati. It just makes all the sense in the world. And if they put the pieces around him, if they get the coaching and the system, because the system's going to revolve around his skill set. It's not going to be, this is the way that it is. This is the system. Run it this way. No. You have a franchise quarterback that you're pumping tens of millions of dollars into, and he is the face of the franchise. Find out what he's comfortable with and get people on board that can develop that system around him. So he will be the number 1 pick. It's the question of Tua is who is the big X factor. I think if he's available, if he's on the board, take him, and you take the time with him. Because based on what these NFL former players and executives say, if you pass on to it turns out to be a success, you're going to get fired. If you take Tua and he doesn't work out, you're going to get fired. So what darn if you do and darn if you don't. If you take them, even though it's a different world where your medical team hasn't been able to get their hands on them because of what's going on, you have to look at all the medical reports and put your best guess together, because it's a guess. You don't know. If he looks to be, and based on the virtual videos that we've seen of him, he seems to be ready, to me anyway. And you can't win without a quarterback. I mean, you're just not gonna happen. So you take your risk. I think Miami's the first team that's got to crack at him. I think if warm weather climate, the medical people down there, they need a quarterback. Even though you got a quarterback down there, but I think clearly that stadium will be packed, and I think you just take your chance on him. You coach him up, put a system in place, make sure medically he's as good to go as possible. Take him. I know some people say because of the hip, it's such an unknown, you just can't take that risk. I just don't think you can afford not to take that risk. I think he's just one of those talents. You got to take him. You got to work with him, and you just hope that the medicals turn out to be as solid as what you're hearing.
With that being said, from the looks in your crystal ball, you're saying Burrow with Cincinnati, Tua with Miami. Who do you see Jalen Hurts landing with?
I'm not. I like Jalen Hurts when he was at Alabama and Oklahoma. I mean, he's a terrific talent. I know he doesn't want to play anything else other than quarterback. I think he will be drafted. It may not be as high as a lot of people expect. He's got the tools and talent, but I do think he will. He will be maybe day 2, perhaps. I don't see him going day 1. I see him going solid day 2. Look, it doesn't matter really. I mean, we talk about that. You've seen guys like Tom Brady that was picked at almost 200, and you saw what he's done, 6 Super Bowls. So, I mean, to me, I don't look at where you go, if you could be the top pick and be a bust, or you could be pick number 178, the Hall of Famer. As long as you get on somebody's roster, you have the opportunity to prove yourself, and we'll see how it goes on that. But Jalen Hurts, I expect him to probably be a day 2 selection, and he'll do well. I think he's got the attitude for it. I think he just wants the opportunity, and I think once he gets that, I think he'll take advantage of it.
I, my friend, would love to see him put on the black and gold of my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, but that's wishful thinking. With that being said, what do you think about the Gronkowski-Brady reunion, and do you think they're going to have a positive impact at Tampa Bay?
I think they will. I mean, I love Tom Brady, 6 Super Bowls, and I think Gronk coming out of retirement to play for Tampa, I think it says a lot. It says, first of all, if Brady was still in New England, that Gronk would still be retired. And so I think Tom clearly, to me, called him and said, look, let's do this thing again. You got another year 2 in you. And by him being retired and then coming out, I think he does. Hey, I think it makes sense. Whatever Brady asked for, because of what he's done. He's won 6 titles. He asked for the moon. Buccaneers better get on the space shuttle and try to go to the moon and figure out what's going on and bring it back. I mean, he deserves that. But Father Time slows down for no one. And when you're in that division with New Orleans and Carolina and Atlanta, you better have the pieces around Tom Brady to make that happen. And I would love to see it. I'm anxious to see it. It's going to be different, that's for sure. Can you do it again? The league has gotten faster. Pass rushers have gotten faster. Brady's going to have to do these schemes, these RPOs that these teams are running now. Brady, that's not Tom Brady. The shotgun and dink and dunk. That's what the Patriots did. You crowd the box, they stretch the field. You stretch the field, they'll just play dink and dunk. And we'll we'll see the chess match of what Bruce Arians and that offense comes up with. I'm looking forward to it. I think Gronk is a guy that can go either way. Go one-on-one on the edge, stretch the field, do the deep threat. Does he still have the speed after being somewhat retired? We'll see. But I think clearly it's going to be fun to watch. Watching Drew Brees and Tom Brady, probably the hottest ticket in town. Can you see the dome? Just how that's going to look like?
Can you see your buddy Carlos Brown pulling his hair out his head?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Carlos Brown doesn't have any hair to begin with. It's going to be, the few follicles he has left, he'll probably pull those things out.
Oh, man. Look, do you dare to venture and give a projection of what you think the Bucs' record would be first year under Brady?
I'm gonna say 10-6.
10-6. Okay.
I'm gonna say 10-6. I was listening to the sports talk yesterday with this Gronk move. Some people think that immediately puts Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl conversation. I'm not ready to go that far. You got the NFC has some good teams. You can't discount Dallas and this thing with Dak. You got to get that worked out. Can't count out Drew Brees and the Saints. The Rams are going to have a clearly different look with their running back situation, and Jared Goff has got to get some difference around them. But they were over the cap. They had to dump salary overboard. They were able to do that. The defense is still pretty good. I think 10-6. I think they'll make playoffs. I think they probably 10-6 probably will get them a home game. They'll probably get them a bye and one home game.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Okay.
To say that they're a Super Bowl contender, I'm not going to go that far. I think they're vastly improved. Vastly improved. I'll say that from a program that was not very good last year to go to 10-6. That's pretty good. I'm not putting pressure on that organization as a fan to say they're going to make the Super Bowl. Let's see what happens after year one. This is a whole new program, and yes, lightning does strike. Patrick Mahomes had to take his lumps as a youngster last year. Didn't get to the Super Bowl after losing to Tom Brady. But he got back, and year one is going to be a feel out. You don't have that kind of time with a guy that's 100 years old. So I think there's a lot of people that expect Tampa to do it this year. I think they'll be improved, but to put Tampa Bay in their own stadium in the Super Bowl, I'm not going there. I think they'll be in the playoffs. I could see them having a first-round home game, maybe a wild card game, or maybe a bye. But that's about it as far as I'm concerned with the Buccaneers. My cousin used to play for Tampa, Corey Ivy.
Okay.
He won a Super Bowl in Tampa. I have his picture of my office, as a matter of fact, when he played under John Gruden.
Yes, sir. Well, really, we know that was Tony Dungy's team, but we'll give John Gruden the credit. That's okay. I know one true Buccaneer fan, and that is my brother. He fell in love with the sickle orange uniforms in 1976, and he's been an agonizing Buck fan ever since. And as a matter of fact, you brought up the Super Bowl championship, the only Super Bowl championship that the Bucs won, 2003, when they won it of the 2002 season, of course, but it was the year our father passed. And my pop used to always say I would not be around when the Tampa Bay Bucs won a championship, and he actually was a prophet on that one. So it's always kind of ironic how that happens out. We'll see what the end is going to be. I know you're still a huge Rams fan. I'm a Steelers fan, so we'll all be pulling for something to happen within the next few months on the NFL circuit. My friend, it has been a joy, a pleasure, and very enlightening to have you on the show today. And we customarily allow our guests to have some final thoughts and comments, and the floor is now yours, sir.
Well, let's just everybody be safe, be aware of what's going on, protect yourselves, and just look after one another. I mean, I think that's clearly the case for me. I'm trying to stay busy as best as I can, and I'll say this, Dr. Prince, just to kill time, I'm doing a little part-time work at a grocery store, So I'm kind of on the front lines of what we're thinking when it comes to food, and still no toilet paper, still short on a lot of those key items that people have been looking for. Just be patient, be smart, and we'll get through this. Take care of yourselves, and I think that's the most important thing. And we'll get through this sooner than later. But if we don't, it'll be more later than sooner.
Well, my friend, you make sure you stay safe out there. We appreciate you for your being on the front line. We appreciate you for all that you do for this conference. We appreciate you, what you do for the world broadcast radio. He is Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. We want to thank you guys so much for joining in with us. Don't forget our social media handles for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are at The Mike Prince Show. YouTube channel is Open Mic Broadcast Network. Our 24-hour dial-in message line, 713-570-6736. My time is far spent for today, and I must exit stage left. But until the next time, you guys be blessed. We'll see you on the other side.